Hi guys. Today I'm going to tell you about the history of mirrors. Having access to our image at any time is something we find perfectly natural today. Mirrors are everywhere, in our bathrooms, in our bedrooms, even when we are outside our homes. But actually, this is something very recent. Mirrors were generalized in our daily lives only since the 19th and the 20th centuries. Before that, and during most of its history, mankind, the man, had no access to their image. And what I would like to do today is to tell you about this quest that started millenniums ago to make objects that would be able to fairly reflect our image. See how at some time there was a technological race and competition to be able to make these mirrors, and interestingly too, how the mirror has been symbolically an important object for men during history, and how the popularization of these objects, the fact that everyone now has easy access to his or her image, modified the way we live, the way we see ourselves, and the attention we pay to many things about our appearance that were not that important in the past. If we start our history, we need to go back in time almost 8,000 years ago. Actually, since the appearance of man and the appearance of conscience, it is likely that men had access to their image in water, essentially. But the moment when objects were designed and fabricated to reflect our own image is dated about from 6,000 years before Christ, because the first objects that can be called mirrors are dated from this time. They were found in Anatolia, which corresponds to Turkey today, the center of Turkey, a place of very ancient population, where mirrors were made with obsidian. Obsidian, as you know, is a volcanic glass made of lava that contains a high concentration of silicium, and when this lava cools down quickly, there is a crystallization that creates obsidian. And polished obsidian has the power to reflect images with a loss of colors and quality that is very important, but nevertheless it has reflecting qualities. The next evolution in the conception of mirrors would be mirrors made of polished metals. Metals in particular that had a better reflection property than obsidian or other forms of stone. And these first mirrors of polished copper in particular were found in Mesopotamia or in ancient Egypt about between 3000 and 4000 years before Christ. There are also examples of metal mirrors that were found in China about 20 centuries before Christ, 2000 years, and bit by bit we see in the following centuries the appearance of mirrors that were made with metal alloys, mixtures of metals, such as tin and copper, for example, still in the goal to improve the reflection capacity of the surface that served as a mirror. The next step would be during the centuries before and after the birth of Christ in the Mediterranean world. First with the Greeks, who had started to research, to understand the laws of optics, and a story says, the truthworthy of the story is questionable, but it says that in the 3rd century BC, Archimedes, a Greek scientist and mathematician, would have from the city of Syracuse in Sicily today, which was besieged by Roman ships, used mirrors to reflect the light of the sun and propagate fire to the Roman ships in order to break the siege. The story is uncertain because scientists that have been trying to reproduce the operation had relatively poor results, so it might have been invented, but still that's a testimony that the laws of optics were starting to be theorized by men. And when it came to the fabrication process of mirrors, the Romans in the 1st century already were using mirrors, using the production process that we know today, with a substrate made of glass and a coating made of metal. Generally this metal could be tin, lead, or even gold, and this is the kind of mirrors we still use today, with a reflective coating which is protected and maintained by the glass, and as you know, in a mirror it's not the glass that reflects our image, it is this reflective coating applied to it. We have to be aware that during all this time, mirrors were objects of luxury. They were absolutely not available for 99% of the population, and they were objects of high technology for the time, which were extremely costly and limited to the use of the aristocracy, the kings, and generally very wealthy people. The quest during the following centuries would be to try and find a coating, an amalgam, with the best possible reflection properties. The problem with all the metals I mentioned before, like copper, tin, gold, was that these metals had a low reflectivity, which darkened the image they were sending, and actually it was not possible to use them indoor. They had to be used during the day and with light from the sun in order to really work as mirrors. A very important step was made by the Chinese in the 6th century, when they started to apply a mix of silver and mercury. You probably already saw mercury, the metal, which is liquid at ambient temperature, and the reflectivity of mercury, and to a lesser extent of silver, is much better than the other metals I mentioned. And from the 6th century, we start to have mirrors thanks to this technique that were not perfect, but much closer in terms of reflectivity to the ones we know today. The Arabs would also continue research and the production of mirrors in the following centuries, especially as the Muslim civilization was flourishing around the Mediterranean, and there is a documented production of mirrors in what is Spain today, but was in Muslim hands at this time in the 11th century. The big start to the production of mirrors in Europe would be during the Renaissance, after another process was discovered using an amalgam of tin and mercury. We don't know exactly where and how it appeared, but in the 16th century, the city of Venice, which had a long and well-established know-how in terms of glass making, the glass of Murano, for example, started to become a center of mirror production that were exported to the rest of Europe. And still, mirrors were signs of wealth. They were not available for all people living in the countryside in Europe, and until the 18th and 19th century, the population in Europe was essentially rural. People were living from agriculture and far from the big cities, so their access to mirrors was limited to the rare times in their lives when they would go to a hairdresser, or by buying very small or fragments of mirrors that were sold by colporteurs going from one village to another with their merchandise. Generally, that included small manufactured goods. There was fabric, there was needles, and mirrors as well. But still, we were talking about luxury goods, and mirrors started to appear on a large scale in palaces in the 17th and the 18th century, because they were first rare, and second, they were a way for kings or great aristocrats to show their power, their wealth. For example, in Versailles, the Sun King, Louis XIV, ordered the construction of the Hall of Mirrors, which seems something rather trivial to us now, but covering an entire and very large room with mirrors was a sumptuary kind of spending in this time. And the production of mirrors was something that the kings were jealously protecting and encouraging on their territory. In the 17th and 18th centuries, the most renowned places for the production of mirrors were in Bohemia, which is the Czech Republic today, in Germany, and in France, where you had a royal manufacture, the manufacture of Saint-Gobain, which, by the way, still exists as a multinational company today, with a historic job of making glass. Industrial espionage was extremely common. For example, it is likely that the fabrication secrets of the Venetians were stolen and brought to England and France by spies who were sent to Venice to discover how the mirrors were made. But still, the competition between the manufacturers started in the 18th century to make mirrors more accessible to the masses. Poor people and even the middle class would still have a very limited access to mirrors, but this was becoming something less extraordinary. One problem that people were still facing was the toxicity of mercury. When mercury started to escape from a frame of a mirror, it could be fairly dangerous, and research to try and find a cheaper and less dangerous method to produce mirrors continued. In 1835, so this time the Industrial Revolution had well started, a new process was invented in Germany to replace mercury with silver, which was chemically applied directly to glass, and this permitted a radical drop in the production cost of mirrors. This was the basis for the method that still is used today to produce mirrors, generally by directly applying a reflective layer to the glass, either of silver, or, in order to lower the cost even more, aluminium, which also has a very good reflective power. With the Industrial Revolution and the rise in the standard of living, mirrors spread extremely fast in the second half of the 19th century and in the 20th century, to that day when mirrors are extremely basic objects to which we can access very easily. So, what remains of all of this? The first interesting things with mirrors is that their reflective capacity remains something fascinating. In art or in literature, mirrors are typically objects that are either revealing the true nature of people who use them. An example of that is the portrait of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. Mirrors are elements, objects that allow you to discover your own self. Think about Alice in Wonderland, and in the following books by Lewis Carroll, the importance of the mirror as a symbolic door to another world, supposed to shed light on our own world. And because they fairly reflect things, mirrors are supposed to tell the truth and at the same time to be dangerous objects. And here that makes me think about the mirror in which the evil queen in Snow White looks to learn things, and that she liked it or not, this mirror is always telling the truth. In fact, the willingness to know one's own image, to check how we look like, is something very specific to our species. Apparently, it appears only at a certain level of conscience, of knowledge. There are animals which can recognize their reflection in a mirror, but no animal tries and find his own reflection to check what it looks like. And the generalization of mirrors would have a dramatic impact on our lifestyles and the way we see ourselves. The possibility to see our entire body in a mirror, which is not something that was possible before the 19th century, means that we now know how the others are seeing us, and this knowledge, of course, has been one of the elements in the past 2 centuries which have dramatically boosted the interest in fashion, in all signs of external appearance, things that for the vast majority of history were limited to the elite, which had this capacity. There are industries today, if you think about the cosmetic industry, for example, which could not exist on such a scale if the easy access to our image was not something trivial today. And also think of all the time you may spend shaving for the men or making up for women, and imagine a world where this would not be a concern, because you would not even think about the image you are sending to the others. This is probably one of the biggest changes, adaptations in the way men perceive themselves and interact with the rest of the world. And this is what makes me look at this history of mirrors with quite a lot of fascination today. This is it for this time. I hope you found it relaxing first and informative, and see you soon. Bye bye.